Working is a part of life. Your job may just pay the bills or it may define who you are. One of the first thoughts I had after hearing the words, "You have MS," is what does this mean for my future, for all my hopes and dreams? I was thinking this means I have to quit school or my job. We need to hang tight and not make any rash decisions. We don't have to decide the rest of our lives in the first few months.
When I was diagnosed with MS, I was commuting an hour and a half to work. Early on, I thought it was something I could do, no problem. I had some numbness, no problem.
I was driving into work one day and I thought, I'm not myself.
Several people along the way tried to convince me to quit. Some tried to convince me to quit school. Some tried to convince me to quit work.
When a person first hears the news that he or she has MS, there's a tendency to want to make all kinds of decisions at once.
There's so many domains of living that have to be considered that I think it's good to just take a little time, sit back, start to feel better, and then decide what you want to do about revealing or not revealing to an employer.
So I think a person needs to identify, how does my functioning with MS impact what I do? And if it impacts me significantly, then I think I would probably go and get legal consultation, truth be told.
Being employed is a part of how we see ourselves and how we are perceived by others. Work contributes to our self-esteem.
It's not easy for a 24-year-old to be told, you're not doing so well and you might not really be able to work again. So to think that maybe he wouldn't be able to work that job or even any job was really scary and kind of felt like the carpet got pulled out from under us.
I was working in a warehouse and I was struggling with fatigue. I was having issues with my legs. It was just not a safe environment for me.
Being honest with yourself about how MS is affecting work today and thinking how it might affect your job in the future can help you maintain control in your life.
I would find myself reading the text of a script and reading it over and over and over again. I couldn't concentrate in loud environments, and if you can't concentrate in a loud environment, you can't work in a newsroom. I needed a lot of rest, and in the position that I was in, I needed to be able to work 12 and 14 hours a day, continuously.
She'd come home from work after spending a 12-hour day, and just crash.
I was the news director at a local television station, and I needed to be able to solve many problems all at the same time and be able to handle breaking news at the same time, and I could not do that.
At least 65% of people with MS are going to experience some changes in their thinking. The most common changes that occur are with the speed with which a person is able to process incoming information. They also have trouble learning and remembering new information. Attention and concentration can be affected. People with MS can also experience difficulty with what we call visual motor skills. They may have difficulty finding their way in familiar places. And lastly, a common change is with word finding, that tip of the tongue phenomenon that all of us experience. Changes in cognition, along with fatigue, which is so common in MS, are the primary reasons people with MS leave the workforce.
I remember sitting in my office and thinking, what can I do? This is all I've known for 30 years. My husband was a stay-at-home dad, and I was the sole breadwinner. So we really had to think about what would we do if I needed to stop working. We took several weeks in looking at our savings and thinking about how would we downsize. We came to the determination that we would sell our house, when we would put it up for sale, how much money that we had in savings. We've been in our apartment for 2 years now. It feels like home. This is enough. This is home. This is cozy, and it's very freeing to live in a smaller space.
I think when they sold the house, that kind of hurt her heart.
You have to make lifestyle changes. And to me, I was just proud of the way she and Joe did it.
You know, when people are really afraid about their future financially, the one thing I like to do is just sit down and take a deep breath, get calm, and let's look at, first of all, what is it you're afraid of? And then begin to look at what provisions are already made, but to really start beginning to make a plan.
I started doing research and looked at what disability was and how to apply. And at that point, I informed my employer. When we were planning for disability, we looked into all parts of it, whether it wasn't just how to pay the bills, it was how am I gonna have health insurance? How am I gonna get on Medicare?
As long as you're able to do your job comfortably and you enjoy doing it, you should certainly continue to work. While you're not required to disclose your illness to your employer, it's certainly appropriate to ask if there are accommodations that will make it possible for you to continue your work. This may be accommodations for part-time hours or ergonomically appropriate accommodations at your desk, or accessibility to a bathroom, or the ability to work from home part-time.
I realized that I cannot work long days as I'm normally used to. And so I had to adjust my schedule. I had to communicate with my HR director to get work accommodations. Now, by doing that, I'm able to have the flexibility to work from home or remotely as needed.
Me being at home has given me a chance to experience his childhood and be there. We homeschool since Meg works from home and I am at home all the time. It's definitely been something that I think has been in its own way a benefit for me as a dad and him as a kid.
I worked for a year after my diagnosis, and it was very hard on me. And I needed to find something to do that would work with MS and to the level of fatigue that I have. And so I started volunteering at my church. And it turned out to really be a natural fit for me.
MS is not something to be ashamed of. It's not something we did. There are times I may experience certain symptoms and may need accommodations. That doesn't mean I can't do a good job or be a productive member of the team. For me, I found it much easier when I let my employer know up front. That's a decision we each need to make for ourselves, based on our individual circumstances.